1867 Sports Show back again for another fantastic week. We are on episode number Ron Lancaster tonight. Mr. Skinner, what's going on, brother?
I'm doing pretty well. We got big Father's Day coming up, and not to tease what we're going to finish off with here, but we're going to finish off with some stories that I cannot wait to unfurl for the world to hear. But no, I'm doing pretty good. Yourself?
Just fine, man. Just fine. Been a very busy couple of weeks, as you and I have both discussed, but overall, can't complain. Can't complain. We're doing well. Everyone's healthy and happy, and yeah, it's just gotta get more hours in the day somehow. That's all.
Yeah, just got to squeeze in an extra, 4 hours, make them 28-hour days. We're all laughing at that point there.
Just gotta clone. Yeah, we gotta clone ourselves. Get a couple more hours in the day. We're all good. We just gotta figure that out.
Yeah, and then the Edmonton Oilers need to figure out their lives so that you're in a bit of a better mood there.
There you
So,
go. You got to start it off right out of the gate. I mean, it's not like
well, you
anyone's
know
watching
what?
the Stanley
I'm
Cup.
clearly turning into just Mr. Negativity on this show. So, if anything, I'm feeding into my character here. You're way too optimistic. Time to hit you with some reality here. What's
Yeah.
going on with your beloved boys in blue there?
Well, they can't seem to get the puck near the net, which is a problem when you want to score goals. But
That
yeah,
strikes me as an issue in hockey.
it does. It's a pretty big issue. But yeah, Florida is just a really good hockey team. Like, people who don't watch them play very often, they're a very good hockey team.
Yeah.
And when they're up on you, it's very difficult for a team to come back and actually either tie a game and or take a lead when they're behind. So yeah, I mean, full credit to the Panthers, full credit to the coaching staff. I mean, we've mentioned it a couple times. Paul Maurice is just an absolute tactician when it comes to developing defensive game plans and strategies. So I got to give them full props. Edmonton, I mean, they're not playing terrible. They're actually playing pretty well. Some untimely turnovers have been costing them some pretty big opportunities, but that's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. Now, we talked about this last week about the Canadian teams kind of being snake bit and kind of going through these situations of, oh well, they were close, they didn't make it. They were close, they didn't make it. This is it just kind of screams the same type of situation, right? When you look at it on the surface, you're down 2-0. Woe is me. The world's falling. Well, we saw this in the Vancouver series, right? We saw this in the Dallas series. Edmonton is just a glutton for punishment. They love when people start counting them out. They love when their fan base starts to turn on them, and that's when they seem to put their pedal on the metal here. So, yeah, I look at this and it's kind of apropos, if I were to use a big word from the dictionary. Look at me. But it is very fitting that we spoke about this topic last week, because I mentioned the team that I kind of saw having the best opportunity squandered was the 2011 Vancouver Canucks.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why was because they were the last team to go up 2-0 in a Stanley Cup series and then lose. So
look at you. You're already playing out the reverse jinx card here, right?
I mean, it seems to work every time I do it with you. It seems to come back and actually help. So, I mean, let's just hope that we're due for one of these types of scenarios where a team who's up 2-0 kind of rests on their laurels a little bit and lets up and gets the team down 0-2 back in the series. And yeah, again, got to be an optimist, because if I wasn't, this would be a very different episode tonight if I didn't have my rose-colored glasses on.
Well, you know what? There's no team that embodies "you're never in trouble till you lose on home ice" quite like the Edmonton Oilers run this year. I think in game one, obviously, that was a poor performance. I think we can agree on that one. Game two, they at least had a little bit of spark to them, but like you were saying, it's just they seem lost when they get into the offensive zone, which is very uncharacteristic of a team led by Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and some of the firepower that this team has on their roster. But I think what's going on right now too is you're slowly seeing, as this series goes on, the Matthew Kachucks of the world and some of the extracurriculars after the whistle.
Yeah, the Evan Rodriguez of the world.
Yeah, I think they're starting to find a way to get under, the Oilers' skin a little bit, throw them
Yeah.
off their game plan. And sometimes when that does happen and you go down 0-2, right? Like it does need all right, we're back home. Let's reset, shift the mentality. It's home ice, new series, throw out what went down in South Florida. They've got to come up here and win one if they want to be hoisting Lord Stanley's Cup. So it really is a good time for them to try to reset here. But at a certain point, not only on offense, but I mean, you're well aware of it here. The revolving door on defense, as far as all right,
Hmm.
we'll put CC in. Oh no, that was a mistake. Let's take CC out. And then injury. Well, CC's probably going back in now, and it's just like that fourth through sixth defenseman right now is kind of been questionable, right?
Yeah.
Oilers. So it's not just, we can pin this all on Skinner. Oh, we can pin it all on the fact that they're not producing offensive. Like across the board, there were a lot of
Yeah.
ugly spots that they kind of need to smooth out when they get back home here. So game 3 is going to be absolutely huge for them. I mean, you look at the fact that people like Ekblad are apparently throwing rear naked chokes on Evan Bouchard to the point that's the first tap out I've ever seen in NHL history. But this is a series that's getting more and more physical as you go,
Yeah.
and that plays into the Panthers.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a need for a massive shift in tempo, in philosophy, in everything. It's kind of throw out everything that we've been doing because it hasn't been working. We got to come up with something new when they take the ice for game 3.
Yeah. And I think what really needs to happen for Edmonton to get the spark in game 3 is they need McDavid or Draisaitl to score the first goal.
Yeah.
That's what they need to happen. Like McDavid, if you haven't been watching the Stanley Cup, he is buzzing like no one in the hockey world can buzz. Like he's playing so well, but he can't put the puck in the net, which is obviously problematic, but he's doing everything else, right? Like he's controlling the puck. He's obviously the best skater in the league. He's doing the things that you want a captain to do, which is galvanize his team. But I just think that there's that sense of defeat when it's like, well, our best guys aren't putting the puck in the net. How are we going to, right? The Warren Fogels, the Ryan McLeods, the Evander Kanes, like they're just sitting there saying, well, if we have to shoulder the load of putting the puck in the net here, we're in trouble
Yeah.
because we've got two of the best players in the world who are also struggling to put the puck in the net. So I think
On
what
the
needs to
flip
happen,
side of that there as well too, right? You can already see the narrative
yeah,
where if Draisaitl or McDavid goes out there and has a 3 or 4 point night, they win. It's a 2-1 series. Suddenly, the headlines on every sports show is Oilers are back in it. Momentum
yeah,
is shifted, right?
yeah,
So it really is. If one of them has that breakout night, whole new series.
yeah. And to put things kind of in perspective too, I mean, we talk about the big three for Edmonton so far in the playoffs: McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard. Right? Draisaitl and Bouchard haven't really been at their best the first two games. If you watch the games, like they're making uncharacteristic mistakes. They're turning the puck over way more than they usually do, and they're always in big moments. Like Bouchard coughed up 2 pucks that led to goals last night. Right? So it's a situation where you're 100% right. If you can kind of get those three guys back on track, and because I look at Hyman's, working his ass off, Nugent Hopkins working his ass off, like the regular guys who are the grit and hustle guys, they're still showing up, right? And I think what you saw was like a guy like Warren Fogle, who is an energy type guy. He tried to kind of galvanize everything with that big hit, and then he ended up sticking his knee out, and all of a sudden now the momentum shifts, right? So those are the types of things that you look at the hustle aspect of it and you respect it. But everybody's got to be on that same page, because if in order to beat a team like Florida, you need to play 60 hard minutes. And if you don't play 60 hard minutes, even if you play 58 hard minutes, those 2 minutes where they're being more physical than you, that's when they capitalize. And that's what you're seeing happen every series. The Rangers, had them in a pretty good stranglehold in that series. Well, you give them any crack of light, and Florida's taking advantage of it, and they're going to come back and they're going to beat you. So Yeah, I mean, this isn't the Dallas Stars. This isn't the Vancouver Canucks. This isn't the LA Kings. Like Florida is by far the best team that Edmonton has seen thus far this season. And they just need to be able to, again, relax, get their big guys going. Once those guys start putting the puck in the net, you're going to see a much more relaxed atmosphere. And when that arena is buzzing in Edmonton, pretty hard to beat, the momentum and the energy that you're going to get from that. So yeah, again, optimistic for game 3. Home ice is a completely different, matchup. So we'll hope for the best and yeah, go Oil.
Yeah, doesn't hurt that Bobrovsky is playing absolutely out of his mind right now, to the point that he's reminiscent of early '90s Dominic Hasek with his sprawling, leg cartwheel saves and all that going on. To the point where, when the Olympics roll around, you look at that and it would be like, God, what Canada would give to have something like that as a number one netminder. And
Yeah,
Bobrovsky's probably going to get cut from the Russian team.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, we won't get into Bobrovsky because I mean I'll give him his props, but yeah, it just kind of upsets me at how well he's playing right now. So we'll save that for another day.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Why don't we transition to a subject that we can get some golf claps going here, because
Thank you very much, Kyle.
Canadian kid Adam Hadwin, third place finish at the Memorial over the weekend. And for those that were watching as well too, I mean, there's no hotter golfer on the entire planet than Scotty Scheffler right now, who
Yeah.
is just going out there and is already, not even mid-June, has set the single season PGA Tour earnings record already. So,
Did you, sorry to interrupt you, but did you see the guy who placed a wager on Scotty Scheffler to finish top 10 in 10 or more tournaments this year? He parlayed it and he put $100 down. And if he wins, he's gonna get like $1 million payout.
well,
And it's like
looking pretty good.
Yeah, he's looking very good because I think he's already halfway there and it's only 5 tournaments in.
Oh yeah, like barring catastrophic injury, like the closest he's been is when Scheffler got arrested.
Yeah,
in Louisville there. So
yeah,
as long as he doesn't have any more run-ins with security or local sheriff's departments, I think he's sitting pretty there. But
stay out of the South.
yeah, absolutely. But I mean, Hadwin had a moment where he was one back. Scheffler was kind of struggling. So you're kind of thinking, oh my God, like, is he going to go out there and actually dethrone, the world number one here? And then had some struggles closing out the front nine. And then he got right back into it and then kind of struggled down the stretch. Ultimately ends up finishing 4 under par, couple shots back of Scheffler. So wasn't really in contention during the home stretch there, but had his moments on Sunday, which is exactly what you want to see, because
Yeah.
top of his strong performance there, for those that are kind of keeping track of, okay, Paris Olympics are coming up. This weekend at the US Open is the final event that they take into consideration for who makes the world golf rankings kind of cut for each international country here. With that strong performance, all of a sudden Hadwin jumps up 24 spots and he goes from outside looking in to all of a sudden current Olympian.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's a foregone conclusion, like we were kind of saying last episode there when we were talking about golf. Used to be Mike Weir and the also rans, right? Now you've legitimately got 5 golfers who are all top 100 in the world golf rankings. And with the fact that it's a major, that there's additional points available in this. So a strong showing this weekend could ultimately make or break who's going to the Olympics for the red and white here.
Yeah. And yeah, we've mentioned this several times, but it's never been stronger in regards to a collaborative effort from Canadian golf. So you look at the fact that now they're battling for positions, whereas you mentioned before it's like Mike Weir and then whoever the top qualifier is, right? So the fact
Local
that
amateur from Windsor, Ontario.
Yeah, the fact that golf is back at the Olympics, the fact that now I think across the board you're seeing more international golfers really excel. And this is again a rotating, a rotating conversation that we have regardless of sport. 10 years ago, Canada basketball, it was Andrew Wiggins and whoever else was willing to join them. you know, Canadian, Canadian soccer weren't even on the radar, not even in the top 100 in the world. And now you fast forward to 2024, hockey, basketball, baseball, golf, like every sport that we end up talking about in regards to Canadian athletics, they're doing extremely well, regardless of how much the administration gets in the way. Like that's really the only thing holding all these things back from being these feel good stories. And they still are, because the athletes are obviously the main focus here. But imagine if you had all of the groups collaboratively say, hey, top executives, can you guys just take a step back, put the money in the places that it should be going, and then just stop?
Wouldn't that be nice?
What a wonderful world this would be if that happened. So, yeah, I mean, going back to the golf conversation, Adam Hadwin is a guy who has shown some promise in past tournaments. He obviously has the skill set to be a contender. It's just a matter of consistency, which is the case for a lot of Canadian golfers. Like Nick Taylor's in the same boat. The only guy who really you can say, yeah, I'll be confident that he'll finish top 20 every tournament is Corey Connors, right? So you look at all the people who have a chance now to represent their country and go to the Olympics. Canada's got a great shot at a team medal here. Mm-hmm. And regardless of who you get, you want the people who are playing the best golf at the right time. Yeah. So if Adam Hadwin's going to choose now to shoot up the rankings and finish top 5 in these tournaments, all the power to you, because you're going to bring the momentum with you and you're going to make sure that you're getting your spot solidified. So let's just keep the good positive vibes going, and let's get the best team over there that we can to compete for a medal.
Yeah, and Hadwin has certainly had his fair share of shots at winning terms. Hasn't won one yet this season, but 5 top 10 finishes already,
so which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. He's in it on Sundays, which is all you can really want as a competitor, right? You never want to enter Sunday as far as like, well, this
just is fun. Made the cut.
Yeah, made the cut. My job's done here. But I mean, with all of those strong finishes, he's kind of peaking at the right time. And like you said, maybe the Summer Games is kind of where that mountaintop of his season ultimately crescendos there, right? And he's kind of been building up and all of these strong finishes, and now we're getting to the mountaintop here.
I'm gonna make another note of a large, fantastic word that we've used on this show. So we've had apropos and crescendo. It's good. It's good.
Well, let me tell you, we are quasi-educational over here on this podcast as well, too. But you got Nick Taylor at number 32, right? You got Hadwin at 35 in the world. Then you've got Corey Connors, 46, Taylor Pendrith, 65, Mackenzie Hughes, 66, and then Adam Svensson at 89. Mm-hmm. Only 2 of them are going to make it. U.S. Open coming up here. So if you were a betting man, who are the 2 that you think will ultimately end up qualifying based on the world golf rankings once everyone's done on Sunday at Pinehurst number 2 this weekend?
I think the smart money would probably be on Nick Taylor and Corey Connors. I think those are the 2 guys who you see kind
of.
And
after all that we talked about Hadwin, here comes the curveball.
Before I get into that, I said I think the smart money is on that. However, I think
my dumb money.
I think a good opportunity for anyone who's willing to place a bet on who's going to make the team would be wise to put some money on Adam Hadwin, because I think that people are going to discredit these performances and not give him the credit that he needs. So yeah, I would not be surprised if he actually does creep into that spot and it ends up being, because I think Nick Taylor's pretty much locked in right now where he is. So it really comes down to Hadwin and Connors. Now, I mentioned Connors is kind of steady Eddie. He's Mr. Reliable. He makes cuts. He finishes top 20, top 25 in most events. But you just mentioned a really key stat. Adam Hadwin is playing the best golf of his career right now, and he's got top 10 finishes, galore this season. So if he can continue that, and let's say this next tournament is the big one that really determines where things are, who's going to finish, top 10? If Connors finishes top 10 and Hadwin slides down to, top 30 or miss the cut, then you'll see the leapfrog happen. If it happens the opposite way, where Connors is going to be in that 30 range, 25 to 30 range, but Hadwin puts together another performance where he now finishes in the top 10 again, well, you've now locked yourself in, right? So I think where I would go, I would say Taylor and Connors are probably where I would go with it. But again, Hadwin is as good a choice as any if you're looking to put a bet on somebody.
Yeah. And for selfish reasons, simply because I want to see them try and actually compete for a medal here rather than, oh, that was a solid middle of the pack kind of running that Canada had, right? That's kind of why I want to see Taylor and Hadwin, right? Because they end up having Taylor has already won this year, right? At the Phoenix Open, or AKA the biggest party in the desert. And, Hadwin is playing arguably the best golf of his career right now. They kind of give you that shot at, hey, they strung together a couple of rounds here and suddenly they're right in the mix of it for the podium. Whereas nothing against Connors. He is the consummate, like you said, pro's pro. He's going to be earning a paycheck every tournament he pretty much goes out to, right? He very rarely misses the cut. He's in the money all the time. But does he give you the shot at a medal, or is he kind of that cool? He finished 7th. Well, they don't have a medal beyond 3, so tin. There you go. We earned a tin medal or something. One name though that he would obviously need to have the performance of a career to shoot up into the top 2 here, but is an interesting one is Mackenzie Hughes, because he's kind of that boom bust golfer where he's either right in the thick of it or he flames out in a hurry. So if he ends up putting together a really strong US Open and shoots up the rankings, again, does he get hot and he can capture lightning in a bottle for a week in Paris? Maybe. But, if Connors ends up going, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But if we're truly hoping for a medal, at least in my mind, I don't know if Connors is who I necessarily want to see go.
Yeah. And I mean, you're not wrong for having that mentality because, like I said, I think Hadwin gives you that extra confidence that he can get hot at the right time. Yeah. Connors is going to come out and give you what you need. Hadwin gives you what you want, right? He gives you the hope. So, yeah, I mean, regardless of who they send, I think this is the most complete, roster of Canadian talent, like we mentioned before, that we've ever seen. So I'm very, very confident, very happy, very comfortable, with whoever is going to be representing Canada at the Olympics.
No, absolutely. So switching from one kind of grass over to another here, we're going to go to the gridiron. Transitioning here. You would think, how does one transition from the Olympic golf to the CFL? And, we're going to trip and stumble our way there with that analogy. But we got there, folks.
We're going from Alabama bluegrass over to nothing but field turf. It's great.
AstroTurf. Here we go.
AstroTurf. Yeah.
No shortage of storylines coming out of the CFL over the last week. Obviously, we've got meaningful football getting played, but you and I, we've done our previews. We've kind of run through quite a few teams here. So we kind of zeroed in on 2 bigger storylines that have come out within the last couple of days. So one is on the broadcast side, which I think will make a lot of Canadians happy and fans of the game. And the other one is on the player signing side. So I'm going to give you dealer's choice. Which can of worms you want to open up first?
You know what? We like to talk about it all the time because it's always a negative thing. This is obviously a positive. Let's go to the broadcasting side.
All right. So look at this. Bookmark this on your feeds here. Kyle Skinner giving a golf clap
there
to
we
the CFL. Hey, look at us.
It only took 23 episodes to get Kyle to say something positive about the CFL broadcasting feed.
Listen, I hold people accountable. That's my MO here. But for those who did not hear, CFL is going to be on a lot more televisions moving forward, which is great to see. CTV, which is the largest cable station in Canada, has picked up all the Saturday 3 p.m. games, plus postseason and Grey Cup. So getting, the product in front of more eyeballs for this season, absolutely a huge win right there. And you can now kind of see, all right, they've got TSN, they've got RDS for the French Canadians, they've got CTV. People are going to be able to access this even if they haven't signed up for the whatever Bell or Rogers TSN
Yeah.
package and this, that, the other. So just getting more viewers tuned into this, and the fact that they picked up kind of a sweet spot on the weekends as far as 3 p.m., kind of a dead time. Like, what are you putting on CTV there? More Young Sheldon reruns or something? Like, it's something that is going to be on the radars of a lot of people, and I think is going to introduce, hopefully, a new generation of football fan to the Canadian product as well.
Growing up watching the CFL, there's something about having a Saturday game in the middle of the day that just screams nostalgia, that screams inviting for young families to watch. Because I mean, when we were growing up, obviously CBC was huge into the CFL back then. You had your Friday night games on TSN, you had your weekend games on CBC. That's just the way that it was. And as soon as it went to the playoffs, CBC had the full coverage. Mm-hmm. So the fact that CTV has jumped in and taken this kind of CBC role with the CFL, it's such a fantastic thing, and it just brings back so many good memories that I have with the CFL, and this is what got me interested in the game. So yeah, like nothing but positive things here, and the fact that it took this long to get this is it's kind of sad, because realistically, like you were saying, how many reruns can you watch from a CTV produced show, right? It's like, oh, great, Hawaii 5-0 is on again, and CTV is going to show 75 previews for it, in between, the golf, that's on CTV or whatever it is, right? So
tune in at 3:30 for Matlock. What's going to happen this week?
I think he'll solve a mystery.
He might read a newspaper at some point on there.
Yeah. Wait, no, he was a lawyer, wasn't he?
Yeah,
not solving mysteries. He's pretty much just like, he's getting bad guys in jail. But yeah, like I said, I think that the CTV deal with the CFL, it's so fitting, and the way that you can kind of match it up is, over time, you've seen Canadian sports kind of go through the trials and tribulations of broadcast deals, right? Like the Hockey Night in Canada thing. Ultimately, every Saturday night, you can count that CBC's got your 7 o'clock game and your 10 o'clock game. It's Hockey Night in Canada. I mean, we don't have that, right? TSN swoops in, they start broadcasting things. Sportsnet pretty much owns the entire broadcasting landscape in Canada, and they, pretty much dictate who gets put on what station. So, yeah, I love it because of the nostalgia aspect. I love it because of the fit, and I love it because of the availability it's going to allow, like you were mentioning, families to now watch the game of football in Canada without having an expensive cable package.
Yeah. And I love the fact as well, too, that you brought up Sportsnet right there, too. And, much to many people's chagrins who even have the Sportsnet package, right? Regional blackouts all over the place, right? If you're a Winnipeg Jets fan that lives in Ottawa or Toronto, unless they're playing that team, too bad, right? You're not going to be able to see that. So the fact that they're coming out and saying it's not going to be this hodgepodge of, oh, what game is it going to be this week? It's Saturday, 3 p.m. game, whatever that is scheduled, that is what we are going to have on, adds a little bit of predictability to it. So you can kind of have that casual fan who might not tune into every game, but knows, all right, I know where to find it. I go to this channel at this time on this day. If I want football, it's easy, right? It's taking a lot of the guesswork out of it. And I think you've got a lot of fans who would support the CFL and watch it, right? But have had to jump through a few too many hoops, and if they need to go out of their way to find it, they're not going to watch it.
They're not gonna, yeah.
Make it as easy as possible. And so by having it on CTV, huge win rate there. All the flowers in the world to the CFL, but they're halfway there. That is only half of the problem in my mind here, right? You've got it in front of more eyeballs right now. I don't know if it necessarily solves the right eyeballs, because we have
Mhm.
had this conversation a few times here as far as what is the traditional demographic of the CFL. They tend to skew a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be tuning into CTV already. At least in my sphere of experience, I don't know a ton of 18 to 35-year-olds that are tuning into CTV for anything, right? A lot of the stuff that they're tuning into, it's either going to be live stream, it's going to be whether it's YouTube, whether it's one of the big, Disney, Apple, Netflix, something like
Dine's
that.
press box.
DinesPressbox.com. Shameless self promotion. But you need to meet people where they live here. So, absolutely, I am taking nothing away. This is a huge win. It should be celebrated. But let's not rest on our laurels here. Like that's
Mhm.
half the equation. You're making it easier for kind of the same demographic to continue watching, which is
Yeah.
great. You're gonna see viewership spike. Love to see it. You're not injecting a whole lot of new eyeballs necessarily. So
Mhm.
if I'm Ambrosi and the head office, my next calls are phone up these streaming services who are tripping over themselves to produce sports documentaries and
Yeah.
spend billions of dollars on NBA rights and this, that, the other. I'm not saying the CFL is going to come anywhere close to a 9-figure deal here. Let's put things in context. But any money coming into the league has to be viewed as a win.
Yeah.
And if you are going to put it in front of people as far as, look what Prime has done with the WNBA right now. They've got it live TV. All right, here's the Indiana Fever against, the New York Liberty, 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. You can factor that into the CFL. And that, I think, is where you'll really see that viewership, people tuning in from live streams from around the world, not just Canada, but people are going to be getting more eyeballs on this league if that's the next logical step that they take.
100%. And I mean, only point I'll make on this to kind of support what you're saying is anyone who has a Fire Stick or any type of smart device that's hooked up to their TV, how many applications do you see where it says stream live sports here, stream live TV here, and how many do you end up downloading?
Mm-hmm.
7, 8, 9, right? Because everyone wants what they want at their beck and call. That's
Yeah.
exactly the point. So I mean, if you, like you're saying, if you're really serious about growing in the demographic that you need to grow in, you have to look, we might not get one of the top 10, players here, but if we can get someone in the, 11 to 50 range of these, top sports streamers, they're built into TVs,
Yeah.
right? Like buy any smart TV now. Tell me that you don't have Roku. Tell me that you don't have Amazon. Tell me that you don't have Apple TV. Like all
90% of the
these,
remotes that come with the TV have buttons for
yeah,
Netflix, Amazon, like built into the
yeah,
remotes now. So
yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So I mean, it's a very good point by you. It's a very good strategy to have if you're not already exploring it, and you don't have to hit a home run here.
Mm-hmm.
Just get on base,
Yeah.
right? Like you got to get on base somehow. And once you're there, then you can start to, look at getting home somewhere, right? So 100%. I really like the fact that this is a good start, but 100% agree with you in the fact that this is not the end. You need to just take this momentum, and now you can have this as a business proposal to these streaming services and say, look at the deal that we just signed. We've now got TSN, we've now got CTV, two of the biggest sports conglomerates in Canada that are collaboratively showing our product. Now, how do we get it, expanded? So, good point by you.
Yeah. How do we get more Kramers of the world to watch the CFL draft there?
Yeah. No, it wasn't Kramer. Wasn't that? It was The Simpsons where he was watching the CFL draft.
Yeah, but Kramer in Seinfeld, he doesn't like the NFL. He only watches Canadian football.
Right. Yes. 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 Because he wants to go to the Super Bowl. It's like, why don't you take Kramer? No, he only watches Canadian football.
Yeah.
You're right. How
Uh,
dare I question you in your Seinfeld knowledge?
yeah, yeah. Well, we'll have to have a discussion about that off air. Sticking with the CFL here, the
Yeah.
Hamilton Tiger Cats made a very interesting signing. Not necessarily in the it's going to impact their roster next week, but
Mm-hmm.
old name. And again, you want to talk about maybe getting some more eyeballs that are fringe fans, or I'll tune in to see how this kind of plays out. Very similar to when Mr. Johnny Manziel came up for a cup of coffee up north here. Who knows how it'll pan out? But brother of Tua Tagovailoa, Mr. Taulia Tagovailoa, is now coming north of the border to
Not bad.
Hamilton, and I didn't completely faceplant on that pronunciation. So golf
Not
clap
bad.
to
Golf
Kyle.
clap to Kyle. Not bad at all. That was I was kind of waiting for you to pronounce it, and I'm like,
I
how's
could
he gonna
see
do
you
it here?
inching closer to the screen, knowing that I was going to have to say the name at some point here.
Yeah, Talia Tagovailoa. But so first and foremost, now you see our tie-in to the episode number of tonight's show. Ron Lancaster, obviously very famous Hamilton Tiger Cat head coach, last coach to win a Grey Cup for the Tiger Cats franchise. But yeah, this is one that I kind of saw coming. If you tune in to, I believe it was episode 4, we talked about negotiation lists in the CFL and how they work. And again, check the receipts. We've got it on here. Like I mentioned all the time, we predict the future on this show. This is just something that happens. If you want to make money, listen to what we say and then bet on it 6 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Okay.
60% of the time, we're right.
It works every time. But yeah, so I made mention that this was an interesting name to keep a name on because he possesses all of the skills that you want out of a Canadian football quarterback. Athletic, smart, good arm, good decision maker, tough. Ultimately, just doesn't have the size that you want on an NFL quarterback, right? But the guy's the all-time Big Ten leader in passing yards.
Mm-hmm.
The guy took a Maryland team that was the laughingstock of the Big Ten for years and turned them into a competitor.
Yep.
Right? He's got a pedigree because obviously he was recruited very heavily like his brother. He was at Alabama before he transferred to Maryland. So if a guy like Nick Saban sees potential in you, probably going to be a pretty good prospect. And you're right in the sense that this brings more eyeballs to the league once he gets an opportunity to come and compete for the job, right? And I think the interesting part about Hamilton is Hamilton's never afraid to take big swings like this.
Mm-hmm.
You always see a team like Hamilton in the mix for one of these big time college quarterbacks because, hey, what's the worst that's going to happen if we put this guy in a negotiation list and he doesn't come up here? We cross him off and we get somebody else on there.
Yeah.
So this kind of creates a good scenario for Hamilton because now, one, you've got him signed, so he can come in, learn the game. Once he's ready, he can then potentially get dressed, get some meaningful snaps, and see how it goes. You can groom him for next year, right? So that way he sits behind, doesn't get any playing time, doesn't dress, but kind of sees how the CFL operates, learns from a guy like Bo Levi Mitchell, who, I mean, you can't learn from anyone better than that. And ultimately, you could take the next step and compete for the starting job next year.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could take, the more radical route of saying, or there's 2 other ways this is going to go. So you can take 2 other radical routes. One, throw him right into the fire.
Yeah.
See what you got, which I don't think is a very smart idea because now the season's already started. He's missed all of training camp because he was obviously in NFL mini camps. So, but throw him out there. He's obviously played a lot of football. He's not, exactly the youngest of prospects. Let's see what we got, right? Is he going to sink or swim? And then the most radical option is, well, we've got him signed. He's a part of our roster. He's a part of our franchise. If we're in the mix, come mid-season, let's dangle him out there as trade bait.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I think you saw Hamilton do that with Johnny Manziel back in the day when he came up, they signed him, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, and now they've traded his rights to the Montreal Alouettes for a slew of players at picks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a smart thing for Hamilton. It's a smart thing for Taulia because this is an opportunity for him to showcase his skills in a professional football league.
Yeah.
And it's a smart thing for the CFL to keep these things like negotiation lists available because now this allows for you to have free negotiation with these top level prospects who might not get a fair shake at the NFL. So, yeah, I love the fit. I love the fact that he's going to come in with the type of pedigree that he has. And with a historical franchise like Hamilton, again, I love the fact that they go out and take these big swings at guys like this because you never know when they're going to come up. And if they hit, you've got an absolute steal of a player that costs you absolutely nothing until it comes time to pay him starter money. But I digress. Great for him, great for Hamilton. I'm really interested to see where this goes because I really think that this is a great fit.
Yeah, I think it's wins all around, right? You get a free look at him. He's a household name, right? People know based on his pedigree, based on who his brother is, based on all the dialogue that always goes on around his brother. Like Tua is constantly in the headlines because Miami fluctuates between being absolutely enamored with him and ready to run him out of town. So, the last name alone is going to be constantly out there. But 24 years old, like you said, Big Ten record holder in terms of passing yards and completion percentage, which
Yep.
is very, very important when you're losing a down coming up north. You want to be accurate. But he's signed to the practice roster. And like you said, they're going to take a look at him and they'll make a decision probably sooner rather than later in terms of, is this someone that we see as a long-term fit? Is he a career backup? Is he someone we're going to trade at the deadline? Like any number of things is available. What I really like about it, though, is this is a Hamilton team who we've talked about it already, has probably the widest range of possible outcomes of
Yeah.
any CFL team this year, right? They could, in theory, challenge for the East Division title if all the stars align, or they could be the absolute doormat of the entire league because they've lost too many of their veteran players and, new system coming in. Bo Levi Mitchell, no spring chicken. He's coming into training camp in a walking boot. Looked serviceable against
Yeah.
Calgary, right? Over
Yeah.
300 yards. He had a touchdown, one pick, but ultimately in a loss.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a team who you could very well see them at the midpoint of the season kind of going like, listen, either we get a spark here or we're going to be picking number one overall at the end of the season. So why not go out there and see it? Now, Bo Levi Mitchell, consummate professional, but let's call it what it is. Injury prone in the later stage of his career. So already having the lower body injury to begin the season, you're looking at any sack could be a multi-week absence. So they need to have that kind of internal backup plan. So I would not be altogether shocked whatsoever to see a scenario in which we see Taulia actually suit up and take meaningful reps this season. And where he kind of goes from there in terms of, all right, I came up here for a year. I got my game film that I can show teams south of the border again. I'm going to kind of do the Nathan Rourke experiment and go back down there. And, wherever I slot in on the depth chart is ultimately where I'm happy being. Or he ends up being like, wow, look at this kind of breakout star that Hamilton got for a pittance just for adding him to a negotiation list. And he actually came up north. So I'm really intrigued to see how all of this plays out. Not that I'm rooting against Hamilton, but just for curiosity's sake, I'm kind of secretly hoping that things might go a little bit sideways on them this season and we start getting kind of that, not necessarily QB controversy, but all right, we know what we have in Mitchell. Let's see what we got in the new guy because it's kind of a lost season at this point anyways.
Yeah. And, I'll give you two perspectives of how this thing could go. Best case scenario, Taulia Tagovailoa, comes in and actually performs very well. And he's Zach Caleros, right? Got a good pedigree coming up, played at a good school, was a very accurate passer in college, and his skill set transitions very well to the CFL game, and he becomes one of the all-time best CFL quarterbacks, right? Or it could go the way of Timmy Chang. Probably don't know who that is. Another former Hamilton Tiger Cat quarterback. He was the record holder, for passing at the University of Hawaii. Very pass happy school, put up big numbers in the NCAA. Game didn't translate as well as people thought it would. So it can go one of two ways. Either way, like we're mentioning, it's literally no lose for anyone here because you got him for free. He's on the practice roster. He's learning the game. And at the end of the day, if your season starts to go the way that, you don't want it to, but let's be honest, it happens. You get a free look. Mm-hmm. And then who knows what's going to happen. So 100% I agree with you. And like I said, I think when you have the best case scenario where you're looking at this to be a potential Zach Caleros for our franchise, you can't really beat that off.
Yeah. Before we move on to the segment that I'm anxiously awaiting, one fun little bit of trivia here that I'm curious to see if you know the answer to. So, Taulia has the single season passing touchdown record for Maryland with 26 touchdowns. But he shares that with another former Maryland quarterback. Who do you think that could be?
Boomer Esiason.
It is not Boomer.
No, okay.
And the tie-in is it's his current coach, Scott Milanovich, in Hamilton.
Wow, okay.
So, if there is anyone who has probably done his homework on his alma mater here and is probably aware of kind of what is coming up north of the border, I think Scotty's got some intel there. So that's why I'm extra kind of excited to see how this whole experiment plays out up in Hamilton.
There you go. And you know what? That's a first. You stumped me on a trivia question.
Yeah, for the CFL of all things. Dude, look at us go here. It's a night of firsts. Well, Father's Day is coming up. So we figured, all right, we're going to relive some of our own father-son memories, obviously growing up playing sports, and both of us having daughters ourselves there. We're fully on team girl dad over here, and our kids are now of an age where they're starting to dabble in sports and whatnot. So we're going to do a two-pronged thing. We're going to relive our most fond sports memories with old papa, and then we're going to rehash some of the absolute shenanigans that our current children are up to on sports fields here. So do you want to get nostalgic or do you want to get into the present here?
You know what? I think it'll be more fitting if we go with the present first and then we kind of stroll down memory lane afterwards.
All right. So mine, I've got two girls here. Obviously, I've got an 8-year-old and Harper is about to turn 5 in August there. So they're at a fun age right now.
Yeah.
Harper's kind of just starting out her sports journey. It's been a lot of gymnastics and kind of, all right, did my cartwheel, away you go. Started soccer, so I don't have a ton with her. Haley, I could go down multiple avenues here, but the one that I chose that at this current stage, her just turning 8 years old, that kind of encapsulates exactly who she is and her personality and strong-willed and not going to do something unless it's on her terms here, has been not even playing a sport, but learning to ride a bike.
Yeah.
So Haley was a bit of a late bloomer in terms of riding a bike. Never had any massive wipeouts or anything, but for some reason had some scar tissue built up in her memory that would ride till she was absolutely drenched in sweat with training wheels. But the thought of taking those bad boys off, even though she was so big, it was to the point that the training wheels were bent and weren't even really touching the ground. So she was essentially riding without training wheels already. But visual or whatever that roadblock was, wouldn't do it. Everyone, doesn't matter whether it was me, my wife, grandparents, friends, anything. You could get her in front of friends who were riding without training wheels. Didn't care. Didn't phase her. Anytime you bring it up, nope, not interested. Right. So finally it's like, all right, you're getting to almost like an embarrassing age of not knowing how to ride a bike here at this point. Something's got to give. So I figure, you know what? We've tried all the little tricks. Let's just see if bribery works. So she has herself a Nintendo Switch. I say to her, listen, if you learn to ride a bike without your training wheels, we'll go to the store and we'll buy you a game. 2 hours later, she's riding around the block by herself. So in my mind, it's like, if she is manipulating me to this extent at age 8, I said to my wife, we are buckling up for the future because, oh boy, those teenage years are going to hit hard here. But it just encapsulates exactly what it is. Like, once she makes up her mind on something, phenomenal little athlete. But if you
Yeah.
try and do it before she's ready, Godspeed to you.
Yeah, and there kind of in lies the story of Kyle's life, always getting outsmarted by children.
Yeah.
Um,
Consistently.
consistently.
Yeah.
No, and I mean that's kind of fitting, with my two as well, because they're very much in the same boat where unless they want to do it, it's pretty much impossible to like push them to do something, right? And again, I think that's a lot of kids. It's difficult to get them outside of their comfort zone. It's like, in our house, what I tell them is anytime they say I can't, I say we don't say I can't.
Mm-hmm.
We say I'm going to try again. Like that's the mentality and they're starting to repeat it now, where they hear one or the other one say it and they'll repeat that. So hopefully that'll stick, and hopefully that'll kind of get into both of their heads. But
yeah,
yeah,
until it's can I borrow the car to go on a date? No, you can't do that. Dad, don't say we can't in this household.
I have to explain to them context when when we're getting into that type of conversation. But yes, I've thought about that too. But I mean, right now it works. So mine are 6 and 4, and yeah, I mean, so Blair and June have both been involved in different types of sports since they could essentially walk. I mean, like they were both doing gymnastics, they were both doing soccer. Blair does dance now. And if I were to pick kind of the moments that mean the most to me, I'll get into a funny one after this. But I mean, and you see it too. Whenever your kid does something that they've been trying to do and they finally do it, and you see the look on their face, like, holy shit, I did it. Like that's such an amazing feeling as a parent when you see that. It just kind of puts everything in perspective. It's like I spent all this money, they didn't show up to half the practices, and then they finally do the thing that they've been working on, and then it just means the world to them, right? So in regards to something funny, I mean, I gotta say, my June, my little 4-year-old, she's the tornado of the family. I mean, she very strong-willed, which I love. She's very athletic, which I love. But she also has a very short temper, which is very, reminiscent of her grandfather. So, if my dad's listening to this, you know exactly where she gets it from. But the thing that I think just makes me laugh all the time. So we're in the backyard, we're practicing, because she's we enrolled her for team soccer this year.
Yeah.
So she was all gung ho about it. She saw her sister do it last year. She's like, I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it. And she's just a natural athlete. Things come to her a little bit easier. So she knew how to kick a ball with minimal instruction. She knew how to dribble a ball with minimal instruction. She knows how to do all those things. We do it in the backyard. It's like, okay, if someone takes the ball from you, what do you have to do? I'm going to go chase him and get it back. All right, well, let's go. And you know what? She's showing all the things like, yeah, you got it, baby. Like you're going to go out and you're going to have fun. You're going to do exactly what you need to do. Well, we go through the entire, practice, and we've got all the drills that, and the coaches do a great job. Like they kind of, and again, like they're young coaches. They're fantastic with the kids, and all the kids are doing well. They're all dribbling. They're all doing this, and June's having a great time. Well, we finally get to the portion of the practice where it's okay, we're going to square up with one of the other teams. We're going to play 4-on-4. And June's looking at me. She's like, I'm going to do it. She's giving me thumbs up. And she's like, I'm gung ho, ready to go. Ball gets dropped. And she's the first one to get the ball because she's just, she's one of those types of kids. Well, she goes and gets the ball. And within 2 seconds, one of the other kids goes and kicks the ball away from her. And all of the things that she said leading up to that, where, oh, if someone takes the ball from me, I'm going to go back and get it, all got thrown out the window. She turned around, stomped her feet, and marched off the field and said, Daddy, I don't like when kids take the ball from me. And
Sports are number one bullshit.
and refused to go back on the field after that. And I mean, I had to laugh because I'm like, you know what? This is so fitting for a 4-year-old's mentality, right? Like everything is, I love doing this. This is my favorite thing to do. And then something happens that's not exactly how they planned it. And then everything just goes out the window. So that's just kind of fitting for every parent who's watching their kid go through sports right now, because you're going to have those moments regardless of what it is. And I mean, you have to just laugh, and you're just like, okay, how do we get over this now where every time someone takes the ball from you, you're going to get upset? Okay, we can go work on it in the backyard, we can practice, but then you don't know how it's going to operate when you actually get thrown into that situation. So like I said, I laughed, my wife laughed. You know, we've had a very good very good time reminiscing about the first time that June played an actual soccer game. We'll have this story for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving into kind of memories of me playing sports growing up and my dad and all of that, like it's kind of like what we were just talking about right there. And we don't need to get preachy about it, but like when I think back on playing sports and even watching my kids play it right now too, it's kind of like that clip of the Boston College player where it's like, what are you going to miss most about, sports? And he breaks down in tears and he's like, just going out to eat with my friends. Like
Yeah,
those are the things that are
yeah,
most important. You're not gonna if you are one of those people that's like, I remember when I was 8 years old, every score of every game. Like you're a psychopath. You need to get yourself like actually evaluate there. But like it's the road trips, it's the fact that your team hotel had a pool in it or something at
yeah,
an away tournament, and like all these stupid little things that you end up remembering. So like when I'm thinking back to my childhood, it's not like, all right, what championship did we win or whatever. It's like, oh, I remember that after every hockey practice at the Stittsville Arena, they had a 25-cent one of those gummy cobras that you would get, and then I would get a slush puppy, and that was just the greatest thing ever. And that was the big reward for the day, right? And so it's a lot of stuff like that. But the one memory that really sticks out just because I remember it so vividly was good old Lynx Stadium. So we weren't even playing sports. We were watching a sport at this.
yeah.
So my former minor league team of the beloved Montreal Expos there. And we're watching a game. We're sitting
So
on.
sorry, I'll let you get back to your story in a second, but just this kind of brought something up for me that I have to tell, because I know that good friend of ours, Kevin Kelly, former co-host of the Front Office podcast. Um, he won't find this as funny because obviously it's a very embarrassing story for him, but he missed out on a boys trip to Toronto that we organized with a bunch of the football guys back in the mid 2000s, because his then girlfriend convinced him that they needed to attend Scratch's birthday, who is the mascot of the Ottawa Lynx, and he missed out on 4 days of games.
Debauchery.
Like he's debauchery. Yeah, like we went to lacrosse games, the CFL game. We went to Wonderland, and obviously went out every single night and had a great time. It's a story that we all tell still to this day. And Kevin unfortunately missed it because of your beloved Ottawa Lynx mascot Scratch and his birthday with all of his friends.
Which goes to show how he was picking his girlfriends before his current wife there, because why anyone at that stage of their life would be intrigued by a mascot's birthday party. uh,
The best part about it too, is that when we were a few deep after after one of the events that we attended, we decided to call him and leave a message. And we just kept leaving him messages all night, and we were pretending to be Scratch.
Thanks for
And we were
coming out to my
yeah, it was,
birthday,
hi
pal.
Kevin, it's me, Scratch. Thanks for coming to my birthday. Anyways, he'll appreciate that story because I know he'll listen to this. But anyways, hilarious moment in everyone's life who got to experience that.
Oh, the Ottawa Lynx. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry to derail you. Continue.
Back to my story about my papa. So anyways, we're sitting on the third baseline, and that's in the foul territory. And for those that have ever been to the stadium, it's kind of that picnic grass area, right? So it's not actual seating. It's kind of you mill around, and this is the hill and all of that. Anyways, foul ball gets hit. It's coming right our way. And so my dad stands up and he starts kind of chasing it down, and I'm following him hot on his tail, and it lands and it rolls up to this chain link fence, and it just goes under. So he's on his belly reaching under, and he just gets on it. And as he grabbed onto it, he turned to me and he went, "I got it." At that exact moment, I'll never forget the look in his eyes, because about 14 6 to 10-year-old kids jumped onto him to start clamoring for the ball. So the noise that left his mouth was part shock and part fighting for his life under the infant crushing weight of all of these kids. Like it was literally like one of those cartoons, dust piles, where you just see stars and arms and feet coming out of it there, like a Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting the ball and we went down, we got it signed by the Lynx, but the look in his eye and the sound that left his chest cavity when every ounce of air got blown out of him from all these kids top roping like swanton bomb style was something I'll never forget.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I mean, shout out to Dad for putting his body on the line to get a souvenir for his son.
Minor league baseball foul ball, 6 broken ribs for Dougie. Look at us go.
Good job, Dougie. But yeah, I mean, those are always the stories like you're mentioning that you remember so much. Like I've got 2 of them that I thought of that really kind of embody my dad. You know, my dad was a huge part of my sports career, and you know he was very involved, and you know, one of the dads who would actually take the time to teach you stuff, and you know he wanted to be there every step of the way, which is always nice. So the 2 that, and like he'll laugh at these 2. Yeah, he'll laugh at these
with
ones,
that
but,
out of the way.
Yeah, with that out of the way, now it's time to embarrass him a little bit. But so this one goes back all the way to 1997. And my dad was the coach. I was playing up a level. He was coaching my brother and I's hockey team. And we went down to play in the prestigious Can-Am Cup in Lake Placid, New York. And again, we had a phenomenal season. We won the championship in Sudbury, won the Northern Ontario Championship. And you know, we went down to this tournament. We were the only Canadian team in the Pee Wee division. Everyone else was from the US. So first game, we get we go, and in Lake Placid, whoever's not been to Lake Placid needs to go. Beautiful little little town. Yeah, phenomenal little town. But they've got the 1980 Olympic Arena, and they've got the 1932 Olympic Arena, because Lake Placid's hosted 2 Olympics, right?
Which is shocking for anyone
who's
who's
ever
been there, and you see how small it actually is.
100%. It's literally just an Olympic village.
Yeah.
So anyways, we're going for our first game, and it's a night game. So everyone's kind of, you know, nervous. It's like, oh man, like we're playing in this very prestigious tournament. It's a night game. We're the last game of the night, and we're playing against this team from Illinois who hadn't lost in their regular season. So anyways, we go in there. My dad's like this hard-nosed, you know, type of guy. He was a police officer for over 30 years. Like he's as tough as they come. And you could see on his face that he's just nervous as anything, right? And even us as kids, like we're kind of sitting there like, what's wrong with him? Like he's not himself right now. Well, we all get up after a rousing pregame speech, and we go march out on the ice for the warm-up. And my dad's the head coach, but he's not on the bench. Where is he? All right. We got our 2 assistant coaches who are kind of directing the ship, and they don't know what they're doing because they, you know, they're just there to open up the doors. Well, first period goes by and still no Scotty K. So we go back in because they did the flood every 2 periods. So it just so happened that we had the flood after our first period. So we go back in the dressing room, and out comes my dad out of the bathroom in the dressing room, and he's like, oh, had a lot of butterflies to get out. And, you know, just so I don't know if it was something that he ate or if it was just the nerves that got up with him, or both, but the guy pretty much spent the entire first period of our first game of this international tournament on the toilet. It's like you'll never forget that, because I remember when he came out, we were down 2-0. He's like, "What the hell happened?" And it's like, "Well, you know, we all got nerves to get out.
What happened to us? What happened to you?
What happened to you?" So, anyways, we ended up winning the game, winning the tournament, actually. But yeah, that was always a really funny story that we still kind of talk about because, I mean, only him it would happen to, where he's got stomach issues literally for the first period of the first game. So, and then the next one I'll tell, it's one that, again, a bunch of the football guys still tell to this day because it's so fitting for my dad. So there was always a group of the dads that, came to all of our road games, right? Like, they'd all drive down together. They became lifelong friends. Like, they're probably better friends than we are now. For guys in the team. So we're playing at York University in 2006, and we're the number 2 team in the country. York is perennially, in the bottom 5 in the country. We should be wiping the floor with them. Well, second quarter, we're up by 21, and we're not playing very well, but we're just getting away with it because we're just, we've got better talent, right? And I'm kind of sitting there and, I'm not really feeling great about how we're playing. A bunch of the offensive guys are kind of collaborating and talking about what we're going to do to get better. And so then everyone kind of goes off to the side. And then I'm kind of standing off on the side by myself, waiting to get back out in the field. And a couple of the guys came up and we're kind of sitting there and talking. And all of a sudden, one of the guys says, Turks, what's going on with your dad? I was like, what are you talking about? So he's like, look. So we look up in the stand at York University, and again, the fan bleachers on the other side of the field. And you see the entire crowd sitting here in the middle part of the stands. And you see my dad in the very top corner by himself, looking over top of the other side of the bleachers, watching a girls' soccer practice. So we made the joke. It's like, how bad we're playing when my dad loses interest in the game. But it was just a matter of, like, we were absolutely playing like garbage. And, it was, he knew that, we were frustrated. But it's like, a bunch of the dads would get frustrated too. But yeah, it's like, whenever you see him standing by himself, looking somewhere else, it's like, we're playing pretty bad. So anyways, we ended up winning the game by like 40 or so. But it was just such a good, funny moment because it's like, yep, we've lost our number 1 fan's attention for this. We must not be playing very well.
Well, when you first started out with, well, he was up at the top and he was looking over the railing, I was like, is this a second throw up or poop story? Here's vomiting over the railing.
It could very well have been, but I mean, I think it was more anger towards the way that we were playing. So he found more joy in watching the women's soccer team practice on their field as opposed to watching the hot mess that we were putting out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, round of applause to all the dads out there and our kids as well too.
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day to everyone who is listening here. And you know what? There's a ton of things that are going on in the world, and we always kind of poke holes in some of the professional leagues. But at the end of the day, when it comes to your kids' sports and getting involved in it, 99% of the battle is just be there.
Yeah.
And don't be a dick on the car ride home because that is the quickest way to turn your kids off from sports, is trying to live vicariously through them.
Yeah.
Let them do their thing and just support them the whole way.
Exactly. And, whether you've got stomach issues or you're getting attacked by a slew of 10-year-olds, just being there and creating those memories with your kids are going to be the stories that they tell when they're in their, mid to late 30s like we are. And we're still talking about it on our mediocre sports show. So,
and if anyone is listening from Lake Placid Tourism Bureau, we are happy to extol the virtues of your small town. Because
listen, we will absolutely do a nostalgia tour and go to all the places that Canadian athletes performed at their highest levels at the Olympics. Mind you, we wouldn't be able to do it in 1980 because Canada boycotted the Olympics. However, 1932, we could still do that. But yeah, Lake Placid, throw us a shout out here. Let's go.